us free. I had to honor the movement lived in me. Don't sweat it when you cannot save the day.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our first iHeart California DreamAct Town Hall. Thank you for being here. My name is Nancy Chaditis, and I'm the founder of Institutional Solutions. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. As we wait for everyone to join and get settled, let us know where you're coming from. Use the chat to shout out your school, your organization, or what part of the state you're from. We're going to start shortly, and today's music is by Soul Tree. The song is titled Undock Force. See lots of people coming in. Allen Hancock College, East Los Angeles Community College, San Jose City College, Mount San Antonio, 10,000 Degrees, Cypress, Sierra College, across the state. You're coming through. A place called home, Chico State. Thank you so much to all of you for being here today. Thank you for joining us for this powerful, important meeting today of the iHeart California Dream Act. I want to go over a couple of logistics as you continue to tell us the amazing bits and areas that you're from. This is the first town hall for the iHeart California Dream Act. It's going to be running from 1 to 2 p.m. today. We are asking individuals to use the Zoom Q&A, and we have the incredible staff of CSAC standing by to respond. Thank you so much for coming in from PK. Thank you from Los Angeles City College, Moreno Valley College. We will be recording today and posting it on the California Student Aid YouTube channel as well as on their website. If for anybody that wants closed caption hearing, you can just go ahead and from the meeting toolbar, toggle the captions on and off. And you can also join us at social media at CA Student Aid. In terms of us today, I love seeing people are still coming in. Miracosta, CSU San Marcos, CSU Monterey Bay, Cosumnes River College. We're so grateful for all of you being here today. And we're excited to be here to talk about the iHeart California Dream Act campaign. On the next slide, you'll see what our agenda is. It's a powerful agenda. We have our opening and welcome from Dr. Gonzalez. We have some powerful speakers to ground the work. We'll talk about elevating the California Dream Act as a choice and reaffirming the legal framework, right? Why our work is legal and grounded in the law. And then we'll be able to hear some amazing, promising practices from the fields and leave you with some collective actions and tools. So I'm thrilled right now to be able to pass it to the powerful Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, who has been an important individual in helping move on the California Dream Act campaign and her work for equity across the state with the California Student Aid Commission. Dr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Nancy. Everyone, a round of applause for Nancy for getting us started. Number one, I want to first acknowledge that this is Nancy's vision. We have been working with institutional supports for just a few months, and she has been doing this work well before this webinar. And it's an honor to work with her every single day. So thank you, Nancy, for your leadership today, every day, and for just being you. Colleagues, I'm joining you today as the Executive Director of the California Student Aid Commission, and I'm joining you with deep appreciation and a lot of humility. A lot of humility on behalf of the work that we do at the California Student Aid Commission, on behalf of our commissioners, and more importantly, the millions of students that every single one of you help every single day. Today, my message is going to be very simple. Today in this campaign, the iHeart Dream Act campaign is about unity and courage. The courage to defend the humanity in all of us. Unity to stand with and for our most vulnerable students, the students that we serve. I know that you're all watching the news, and we know that some days seem darker than others, but we also have to be the voice of reason, the calm, the unapologetic leaders that take action. We have a moral responsibility because our students deserve better. When the existence of our students makes people uncomfortable and their success is blocked, we have to double down on solutions. And that's why we're here. The California Student Aid Commission is honored to stand in unity for the DREAM Act, for the California DREAM Act campaign, for our immigrants and families, for undocumented and refugees here in California. our partners at CASFA, Institutional Solutions, Immigrants Rising, 10,000 Degrees, SoCalCan, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, UCLA Dream Resource Center, Compton College, Pique, and yes, Senator Perez, and all the other legislators who stand with us every single day. We are united here to serve our most vulnerable populations in our state. But I need to be very clear about what today means and what it means for all of us to exist in this context. Today's webinar is an action born out of generations of hard work. Work to claim our own dignity and the humanity of others. From decades of, yes, pun intended, hard work, from lived experiences, from tears, from anger, and yes, an unapologetic outcry to affirm that our students and the children that we will educate are a message that we will send to a future that maybe some of us will never see. So the I Heart California Dream Act campaign is a visual representation of unity. It is our way to combat misinformation, to address intimidation, and positively impact the lives of California students and their families. The time to manage a crisis is quickly fleeting. We are the crisis, so we must now lead through it. And for this, we must lead with courage and live up to our values. And there are really just 3 quick actions that we are asking of you today. 1, you've already achieved. You are here. You are learning and educating yourselves about the California Dream Act application, what it does, and more importantly, clear information from our own general counsel about what are facts, what is actually true. So today we are asking for you to elevate the California Dream Act application to help every single student who's eligible, a mixed status family, undocumented students, certainly those who qualify. Number 1, to know that here in California, we want them to be successful. That here in California, our undocumented students can go to college and they can get financial aid. And that AB 540 and CADA remain open and available. It is California's law. It is the California way. The second action is to affirm every single day that your students can be successful. It doesn't matter what room you are in. We have to be consistent in our messaging. Because any moment where we say the opposite is the moment where our students lose their faith and their trust in who we are and what we say. And lastly, there are really big opportunities coming at us in this legislative and budget session. And I want to ask you to stand with us, to stand with the California Student Aid Commission, to stand for college affordability, and to support SB 323 as we go through the next few weeks and months. But certainly, as we head to March 2nd, our students deserve access to higher education. We have a duty, we have a job to do to center the California Dream Act application at the center with our students and their families in mind. I want to transition to many other speakers who will hopefully not just share what's in their hearts, but help you understand that you are not alone. None of us are alone. And that means that we have to pass on that message to our students and our families, certainly to our undocumented refugee and immigrant families today more than ever. And I know that Senator Perez could not be here and join us here today, but I want to elevate her work with Senate Bill 323, a piece of legislation currently sitting in the Appropriations Committee, a bill that seeks to empower students and families to decide for themselves what financial aid application is best for them, but more importantly, a bill that elevates the California Dream Act application. With that, I want to hand it over to our next speaker. So if we could go to our next slide and just say thank you for being here. Thank you for the actions that you will take after this webinar. And thank you for staying centered on the students and families that need us now more than ever.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you for your courage, your commitment, for elevating equitable access, support, and success for all students to pursue their educational goals, regardless of immigration status. And thank you again to everyone who's here. We are over 300 strong. We're thrilled to host you and know that you're going to be inspired by what you hear today, as well as acquire some new tools and strategies and strengthen your courage and community. Now we're going to hear from some incredible advocates for equity to help ground the work. Ju Hung, who's director of the UCLA Dream Resource Center, who played an instrumental role in the passage of the California Dream Act in 2011. In fact, I first met Ju as he was providing testimony for its passage in the California legislature. We'll also hear from Jerry Reyes, who is president of the Student Center for the California Community Colleges and is dedicated to increasing access to higher education for all students in California, and from Dr. Keith Curry, a longtime leader in educational equity who believes that every student is a success story. So, Ju, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and hello, everybody. My name is Ju Hong, and I'm the director of the UCLA Dream Research Center, working alongside immigrant and undocumented students and youth to build leadership and expand access to opportunities. I'm incredibly honored to be here, and for me, this is very personal. I still remember, as Nancy shared, walking into a state capitol as a young organizer to testify in front of legislatures in support of the California Dream Act. And I was not a policy expert. I was a student trying to share my personal story and explain that what it felt like to study just as hard as everyone else and still be locked out of financial aid because of my immigration status. And I remember as a young student, my hands were shaking and my heart was pounding, but I spoke the truth and sharing my personal story, the importance of the California Dream Act. And at that moment, taught me something that I'll never forget, which is storytelling is powerful. It's part of organizing tool, and stories change policy. And so that testimony just was not mine. It carried through the voices of so many young people across the state of California who couldn't be in that room. And at this moment in time didn't come out of nowhere, right? And for years, immigrant youth and allies across state of California had been organizing on campuses and in their communities and across state of California. And they were meeting each other, educating their peers, showing up again and again. And the programs like the UCLA Dream Research Center, Dream Summer Fellowship help grow their leadership and giving young people the confidence and tools to organize and advocate and connect their lived experiences to real change. And that long-term, consistent organizing is why the California Dream Act passed. And this history matters, especially right now. The California Dream Act is more than a form. It's about an affirmation that students have a right to an education. And it's California is saying clearly that immigrant students belong in our colleges and universities. At UCLA Dream Research Center, one way we try to live that commitment is by making our support visible and sending a simple message that you're not alone and it's safe to ask questions here. And that visibility matters more than ever with the attacks we are seeing on immigrants at this moment in time. Many students are questioning whether this is even the right time to go to college. And our role isn't to decide for them, but it's make sure that they have a clear and accurate information so that they can make own choices. That's also reason why I so honored to be here and part of this campaign. And I love California Dream Act. It's so important. These tools that you will hear help turn student into action and putting posters where students can see them, talking about the Dream Act in staff meetings, in community settings, and sharing information and resources and support one another. And this is what we need at this moment in time. And when support is visible, students feel safer talking about next steps. So as we talk about the California Dream Act today, let's remember that let's ground it ourselves that it exists because of students' courage, years of consistent, unwavering commitments of organizing and community care. And that's the best way to honor that legacy is to keep showing up clearly, openly, and consistently for students who
I believe Ju is frozen, but those words are so incredibly powerful, Ju. Thank you so much for the thought, the work that you've done, the strength that you've brought to the work that you've done. And I'm going to pass it now to President Reyes for the next grounding.
Thank you for that. And thank you all for having me here today. Just a Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Jerry Reyes, and I serve as the president for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, where we represent the 2.2 million students across the state. I'm also a first-generation undocumented student, and I currently attend Reedley College, and I transferred over to Fresno State as well. And, whenever college affordability or financial aid is brought up, it's deeply personal to me. Because getting through community college couldn't have been easy if I didn't have access to the DREAM Act or the Promise Grant or other types of financial aid that's available. And not only did it make it possible for me to attend college, but it also made me have a sense of belonging because there was something for me here. And as a first generation student, navigating financial aid wasn't easy. Oftentimes I struggled to find the right information, or I didn't even know where to ask for help. And, that's something that students shouldn't have to go through by themselves. And so when I transferred over to Fresno State, I experienced another sense of confusion and doubt because I started to question whether or not there would be any resources for me available. But, I knew that, hey, if I could get through community college and go on to the next level, then I could really do that. And so I found support at the Dream Resource Center, and they kind of got me in check with everything that I needed, all the type of aid that's available. And if I'm being honest, like it was not as overwhelming as I thought it would be. But you just got to know where to ask, and obviously the support makes all the difference. And right now, because of the political climate that we're in, there's fear and misinformation that causes undocumented students and mixed status students to hesitate to ask for help, or even to not apply for financial aid, which is a problem, even if they are eligible. And the way I see it is asking for help should not be stigmatized. It shouldn't be a taboo topic. To talk about the DREAM Act or, being undocumented or mixed status, because obviously if we have different identities, then there's going to be different resources for them. And so being able to be comfortable on campus, in the financial aid offices, with your advisors, your counselors, is really important nowadays. And I mean, to be honest, the DREAM Act is, just simply another form of FAFSA. And so that should never deter students from applying for financial aid. And as students, it's important to know and understand the different types of aid that's available. And it's also just as important for our colleges to make this information easy and accessible to find for students, whether it be on campus or whether it be online. It's important for, if we're expecting students to reach out to the campuses also reach out to the students and their families as well, because they are part of our community. And so, this campaign, it's impactful because it sends a clear and visible message that undocumented students like myself are supported, and there are still options out available despite the current political climate. And in a time where students may feel uncertain or unseen, visibility and affirmation truly matter. because at the end of the day, there's always something out there for you, no matter who you are, where you come from. And if I could do all this, and so can you. And so I just want to thank you all for having me here today. And if you have any questions or you want to get in contact with me, please feel free to reach out to me at president@ssccc.org. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by grounding us in the real people, real numbers that illustrate who we serve and what we do. At Compton College in the 24-25 year, we enrolled 8,392 students, including dual enrollment students. And our student population reflects the communities we serve. More than 60% of our students identify as Hispanic, Latino, and approximately 25% identify as Black or African American. This diversity is a strength of our campus, and it mirrors the lived experiences of families throughout our service area. In the city of Compton and surrounding communities, we serve more than 30% of our residents were born outside of the United States, representing nearly 29,000 people. It's important to know your institution and your community data to remind your campus community who you serve. Data should continue to remind us that immigration is not an abstract policy. It is personal. These are our students, their parents, their siblings, and their neighbors, who are also our partners. I truly believe every student is a success story. Not some students, not most students, but every student. That includes undocumented and immigrant students. In this moment, defined by uncertainty, fear, shifting national conversations, community colleges and our employees must be clear, consistent, and courageous about what undocumented students need now and what we are prepared to do. Community colleges were created to serve the whole student. That means we cannot separate academic success from basic human rights and their needs. Our students cannot focus on their education if they are worried about food, housing, their safety, or their future, not to mention their family safety. For our undocumented students, these concerns are often consistent and compounded. Basic needs support is not an add-on. It is not charity. It is a core strategy at many of our colleges. In this moment, undocumented students do not need symbolic gestures. They need embedded, visible, and trusted support. Legal services must be integrated into our institutions. Knowing your rights education must be accessible to all students. Students must know where to go, who to trust, and that seeking help would not place them at risk. California provides important access pathways for undocumented students, including in-state tuition eligibility through AB 540 and state-based financial aid. But access on paper does not equal access in practice. Our responsibility to ensure students are guided through their pathways by employees who understand their lived experiences. Equity must remain explicit. Equity is not neutral. It is intentional. It requires us to name who is being left out and redesign systems to include them. Undocumented students are not exemption population. They need to remain centered to our institution's mission. Our institutions belonging cannot be a slogan. Belonging is reflected in our budgets, staffing, policy, training, and leadership decisions. Visibility reduction is not isolated. When our colleges clearly communicate their support for undocumented students through outreach, programming, and public commitments, fear is reduced and trust grows. When students know they belong, they persist and succeed. We must act and advocate nationally for our students, regardless of who is in these elected positions. Let me repeat that. We must act and advocate nationally for our students, regardless of who is in these elected positions. Stability for undocumented students often requires federal solutions. Our institutions must continue to educate our undocumented students. And with that responsibility comes an obligation for all of us, regardless of our positions, to speak up. As we close, I want to be very clear about what this moment calls for. Visible, unmistakable affirmation. That is why efforts like the I Heart California Dream Act campaign are so important right now, in this moment. This campaign sends a message to undocumented students. You have the right to an education. California remains committed to you, and the law and the missions of our colleges are already centered on access to higher education for all. Right now, students are looking for answers, such as whether it is safe to ask questions, to say they're undocumented, to apply for aid, to plan for their future, and make our support visible matters. Making our support visibly matters. At Compton College and at all of our colleges, this means posting posters in visible spaces, discussing the California Dream Act, FAFSA openly at staff meetings, using outreach and online materials that clearly identify financial options, and working directly with our financial aid staff to ensure accurate and trusted information available. It also means reminding students that information provided through the California Dream Act application is used only for financial aid purposes and is protected by law. At this time, when attacks on immigration have caused many of our students to question whether it's the right time for college, providing clear and accurate information empowers students to make their own decisions about their future. We must unapologetically do the right thing, and we cannot wait for others to do it because students trust us. I want to end this with every student is a success story, including undocumented students. Our role is not to be debated whether they belong, or our role is not to be debated whether they belong. Our role is to ensure our institutions are strong enough to serve them with dignity, intentional, and also we are committed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. Thank you to President Reyes. Thank you to Ju Hong. I am inspired. You can see by all the love that's coming through the chat, the power of your words. And the importance, right, of visible, unmistakable advocacy and assuring that institutions are strong enough, not just that students have to do X and Y and Z, and that we as educators, of course, have our part to play, but that institutions are strong. So thank you for your courage, your commitment, and your collective years of advocacy. And also, I'm really proud for each of you to be here, which helps recenter the fact that undocumented students come from many different communities, many different countries, and have traveled multiple paths into higher education. We stand on the shoulders of your work. Thank you so much. So now you're going to hear from some of the co-sponsors to continue the inspiration around the I Heart California Dream Act campaign. Why is this so important right now? So on the next slide, we're just going to be talking about the importance of this, and I'm going to start in terms of, as the founder of Institutional Solutions, I worked with our artist Maritza Quiroz to create the visible symbols of support, including the California Dream Act postcards, posters, stickers, and these are actually going to be available to you. We created these to make our support visible and seek to counter the high level of fear, lack of information, and confusion. We have all seen how immigrant communities are under attack in Minnesota, as well as countless other communities across the nation. Like many of you, I take steps every day to collectively address the lawlessness and brutality. And I also believe it's important to actively engage in our sphere of influence, to highlight the collective support available within our schools and organizations, to effectively implement California laws with fidelity to protect immigrant communities, uphold their right to higher education. We have seen the role that community plays in protecting each other. This is true in our schools as well as in our neighborhoods. Students trust us, and we have influences within our campuses, within our organizations. Together, we can make sure that students are not alone, that we stand with them, and that financial aid support is still available and legal, even in this current political climate. This campaign came out of seeing the drop in California Dream Act applications year over year, exacerbated by the current political climate and recent lawsuit. Finding out that last year, the lowest number of students had applied for the California Dream Act since its inception made it clear that something had to be done. Our ultimate goal is to increase the number of students who feel safe applying for or even asking questions about the California Dream Act. Our asks for you today are to always say, CADA, whenever you mention FAFSA, to make your support visible and to have this courageous conversations. In this picture, you see leadership from the campaign's co-sponsors who all played an instrumental role in the launch of the campaign at the CASFA conference in December 2023. And a shout out to Lorena Rodriguez, who helped make this possible. And I'm thrilled now, you'll see in the next slide, to be joined by Tay Kang and Lorena Rodriguez, and you'll also get to hear from them. Tay?
Thank you so much, Nancy, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tay King, and I serve as the Deputy Director of Program Administration here at the California Student Aid Commission. One of the greatest privileges of my role is overseeing and maintaining the California DREAM Act application on a yearly basis. And I'm grateful to be here with you all in this town hall because the steady decline of the DREAM Act applications over the last 5 to 6 years is deeply concerning. And that decline is already continuing into the 26-27 application year. As you know, the DREAM Act application was created in 2012 to allow undocumented students and later students from mixed status families to safely and legally apply for state-based financial aid. For more than a decade, it has helped hundreds of thousands of students access higher education. It is part of the California law and it's central to our shared mission, ensuring access to higher education for all students. We know undocumented students are navigating fear, uncertainty, and real questions about whether it is safe to pursue college. Some are quietly opting out, not because they don't belong, but because they just don't feel that reassurance and safety. And that's where we come in. Students trust and look to all of us, our campuses, our organizations, our educators. And in moments like this, silence can feel like exclusion. Making our support visible and strong, students are looking for signals to know whether it's safe, to ask questions, and we must be intentional about giving them that affirmation. That means always saying FAFSA or California DREAM Act, never one without the other. It ensures that the California DREAM Act application is visible in outreach, presentations, and online spaces. It means working closely with financial aid offices, DREAM resources centers, and other student support services on campus so the information we share is accurate and consistent and affirming. And this is why the I Heart DREAM Act campaign is so powerful. The campaign gives us simple, concrete ways to show support. In whatever role or capacity we are serving in, we want to encourage our students to complete the DREAM Act application, affirming them through outreach, even if that means phone calls or text messages or webinars or one-on-one meetings, meeting late at night. And we want to do that by protecting the communities and by reminding students that enrolling today will pave the way for their future. Putting up posters in visible spaces so students immediately know that they are in a safe place. Taking photos and tagging I Heart DREAM Act on Instagram to normalize that support. Talking about the DREAM Act in staff meetings so everyone who interacts with students feels informed and has that confidence to share the information. It is so critical that students understand that the information they provide on the DREAM Act application to the Student Aid Commission is only used for financial aid purposes, and that is protected. We are doing everything in our power to protect that information. And when students have clear and accurate information, they can make decisions based on facts and not fear. And when they enroll, they can get a new community, access to resources like legal support, and the ongoing partnership of CSAC, who believes in their ability to succeed. At the core purpose of the I Heart DREAM Act campaign, it's really about trust, right? Trust and visibility. And California's commitment to these students has not changed. It has not wavered. And so neither can ours. Let's make our support impossible to miss, and let's make it strong. Let's not allow another application year to pass where located numbers become the norm. Instead, let's come together as a community and make our support active and visible so no student has to wonder whether they belong in higher education in California. So thank you so much for this time. I will pass the baton to my good friend and colleague, Lorena Rodriguez, the past president of CASFA and executive director of financial aid at UC Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Tay, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Lorena Rodriguez, and I am the past president of the California Association of Financial Aid Administrators, and the current executive director of financial aid at UC Santa Cruz. I am first very happy to see that, in the over 300 attendees today, we are seeing administrators from all across educational segments within California. And as Dave mentioned, this campaign is very, very important because we are seeing a reduction in California Dream applications being submitted. But beyond the increase in applications, the need for this campaign is really the clear and present danger to our students because at this moment in time, fear and misinformation can truly hinder the ability, not just the current students that could benefit from higher education and advance in their social economic mobility. It could truly hurt generations to come. So, why is it important that this campaign stays alive and we continue to promote it and use it as a resource? Is because the information and that you're going to receive as educators and administrators will help you with supporting students. And at this point in time, right, as you're seeing changes and the different attacks that other states, and I will even say the state of California is also facing, we want to make sure that we are a beacon of light to the nation. In California, our students can apply for student aid and receive aid packages to attend a college of their choice, which is really the spirit of the Higher Education Act. And as a financial aid administrator, that is at the heart of my profession, of our profession, for all of you who are in financial aid, is to make sure that the students have access and choice. The California Dream application and in the proposed expansion, not only does it provide the access and choice, but it also has the protections that our students at this point in time need in order to trust the system, in order to feel protected. So I appreciate all of the initiatives of the different administrators, legislators, educators that are raising their voice to say we need expansion because we need protection. We need to build the trust and we need to ensure that our students and our families get the right information about the resources that are available to them in California. So the other reason for this campaign, right, and as I mentioned, is because today we have over 300 people here, and a lot more that will be seeing this as a webinar later on demand. And I can tell you that every single person attending here is a partner. You have a partner here that you can truly hold hands with. And if I saw some Moreno Valley people here, I saw my neighbors here from CSU Monterey Bay attending this webinar, different segments, right? At CASFA, we are really an association that brings in different segments within higher education, from the California Community College to the California State University system, University of California system, proprietary, private, independent, financial aid administrators that support students. In this bigger campaign, we are bringing educators from across the state that if LA Unified, you have a student who is attending the CSU system and you don't know exactly what kind of resources that student will have available to them, that you go ahead and reach out to those that you see here that are attending from that segment. If you want to find out what kind of information, what kind of aid is available or resources are available at the University of California system, call me, call anybody within the UC system and find out. For all of us who work in higher education, reach out to one another and reach out about best practices, right? Recently, we were approved to actually provide additional DREAM grants to students. And a lot of us had the opportunity to make sure that we serve students at a different level. Reach out. If you don't know when different legislatures coming out to support your students, find out what other best practices are out there that you can implement at your campus and increase the level of support that you're providing to your students. You know, sometimes I get moms that come up to me for other things within the K through 12 system and ask me questions about community college. And I have an amazing team, an amazing aid administrator group here in our local community college system. So I don't hesitate to call my friends at Gavilan College. I don't hesitate to call my friends at Cabrillo College, at Harnell College, at Monterey Peninsula College. Whenever I need best practices, I call my team, right? At UC San Diego, at UC Berkeley, at UCLA, and at UC Riverside. So this campaign is really about us coming together and ensuring that we're sharing the resources and the information for our students so that we can take care of them, and protect the next generation. So thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Lorena. So important, so powerful talking about this work really is about how can we build more connections collectively. And in the next slide, you'll see that Immigrants Rising, another one of our co-sponsors, couldn't be here today, but they really are committed to that in today's climate and the escalating attacks, that we make sure that fear and misinformation do not keep undocumented students from achieving the financial aid that could save their lives. And I'm going to jump us now into hearing from our incredible legal counsel at CSAC, who's going to reaffirm some of the legal framework for the California DREAM Act. And our apologies that we've gone a little bit over time, and we're asking those who are joining us now to continue to share the information.
Great. Hello, my name is Anna Manuel. I'm the Assistant General Counsel here at CSAC, and prior to this role, I was a staff attorney and the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the UC Immigrant Legal Services Center. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to dive right into my legal speed round here by asserting what is still considered good law, right? What rights and actions should we, as undocumented immigrant and mixed... Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So so we want to look at what rights and actions should we, as undocumented immigrant and mixed status student allies, continue to exercise. All right, so this slide lists the topics that I'll be covering today, which include the legality of the DREAM Act and AB 540, protecting student bodies and their data, and the right to share knowledge about what the law says. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip this slide in the interest of time. Let's go to the next. Great. So the federal government has filed a lawsuit, as previously mentioned, against California. This was in November, and the purpose of the lawsuit is to block in-state tuition benefits for undocumented AB 540 students, and also to block those students' access to state-funded financial aid and DREAM loans. Next slide, please. Okay, I promise you won't be tested on this slide. I'm going to summarize the legalese. So federal immigration law states that if a person who is not lawfully present in the US receives any state level post-secondary education benefit on the basis of state residence, then in that case, an out-of-state US citizen must also be entitled to those benefits. So the federal government is alleging that California is in violation of this provision of IRA. The federal government is arguing that all of those AB 540 requirements are merely a proxy for residence. Now, the California Supreme Court has reviewed the same legal issue back in 2010 in Martinez v. Regents, and it upheld the legality of AB 540, finding that, quote, AB 540 is not based on residence in California, rather it is based on other criteria, which of course anyone who works with AB 540 knows that to be true. So the DOJ's lawsuit disagrees. The lawsuit also alleges that AB 540 violates the supremacy clause of the US Constitution, which essentially says that when state and federal law conflict, then federal law controls. Next slide, please. These are other states that are facing challenges. Let's go to the next slide, please. Great. So on December 30th, California filed a motion to dismiss this lawsuit, and the court hearing to adjudicate the motion is set for February 5th. So we're going to be looking at February 5th very closely to see what happens. So we know, sorry, stay back there. So we know from following DACA in the courts, right, that a lot of things can happen. So it's hard to say what we can expect. So if the case is dismissed, then the DOJ could try again. If the case goes forward, it's likely that either party would appeal the district court's decision, and the case could go up to the Supreme Court, could go up and down through the lower courts the way that DACA has. And so the unpredictability is very uncomfortable. And unfortunately, we just have to continue to advocate for students in the meantime, the same way we have been, with the DACA situation. Okay, now next slide. So until there is a court ruling saying otherwise, AB 540 is still the law in California. We all need to resist fear and preemptive compliance to legal rulings that haven't happened. Just because there is a lawsuit, it doesn't mean there will be a ruling in the Fed's favor. So next slide, please. Okay, moving on. We all know that CADA numbers will continue to decline if students are afraid to go to college or are afraid to apply for financial aid, to hand over information about themselves and their families. So the campaign poster reminds students and allies that CADA data is not shared with the feds. Next slide, please. First and foremost, FERPA is the federal law that, with narrow exceptions, strictly prohibits releasing student PII without a judicial warrant or subpoena. California has passed several laws to protect students and their data, and this is not an exhaustive list. The California AG has published model policies which center on limiting assistance with immigration enforcement to the fullest extent possible consistent with federal and state law. Also note some very, very recently enacted laws that expand protections. SB 98 extends duties to notify everyone on campus about the presence of immigration enforcement, and SB 580 will extend model policies to state and local agencies as well as schools. Next slide, please. So the following slides address topics that are included in the AG's model policies to just quickly review. Some basic tenets. The Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is meant to protect individuals from unreasonable search and seizure. So you're going to want to know that a valid judicial warrant or subpoena is required in order to release any student information to law enforcement. Even with a court order, an immigration officer must be referred to a campus designee to determine proper steps forward. So know your designee. All right, next slide, please. So we all have an expectation of privacy under the Fourth Amendment. ICE can enter public spaces, but cannot enter private spaces without a warrant. Some ways to enforce private spaces are by using signage, locking doors, and of course, educating others. Next slide, please. Okay, so in the first half of my presentation, I went over the legality of the California DREAM Act and AB 540. So to recap the second half, we learned that there are state and federal laws that protect student information and actually even require this protection, right? I'll mention the most relevant parameter here in my third bullet point to protecting students is to stay within the law, okay? Never illegally interfere or physically obstruct law enforcement. And finally, I'll end with this image of the Know Your Rights red card because informing students and colleagues about their constitutional and other legal rights is legal. You are not breaking any laws by merely teaching individuals that they may also assert their rights. Thank you very much. I'll pass it back.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that wham bam really quick lesson. We will be sharing the slides and information afterwards and just grounding us in the fact that there is legality in the work that we're doing and that it continues to be so. We are now going to have a quick tour of the powerful support that is being offered in different areas. And unfortunately, due to time, they're going to be shortened, but we're going to try to do short videos afterwards to share some of these. We're going to start with you, Jamie, and the great work that you're doing at Cerritos College.
Thank you so much. I've been working in the financial aid office at Cerritos College and the community college for almost 30 years now. And I was working with undocumented students when there was no AB 540, there was no California DREAM Act, and it was definitely a difficult time for students. So I'm so grateful that in California we have these opportunities. I was one of the co-founders of our Undocu Ally Task Force here at Cerritos. We took a grassroots approach to try and meet the needs of this community. I'm so thankful to work with all the wonderful people that work with our Undocu students every day. So some of the practices that have worked for us that I'd like to share with you all, campus and community collaboration, outreach, creating awareness, student financial support, and knowing how to access your data. So when it comes to campus and community collaboration, I mean, it's important that financial aid, the Undocu program, A&R, counseling, programs like Puente, EOP, adult ed, non-credit programs, that you all have a strong Undocu Ally task force, because all that work cannot be done by just your Dream Center. We see our Dream Centers handling the day-to-day support, the crisis, legal assistance, mental health, basic. They're making all these referrals and creating that community with students. So they need us on the outside to also support them. And sometimes our Undocu liaisons are part of the Undocu community themselves. So they are also, going through the stresses of what's going on in our communities. So we want students to always feel welcome in every department and every classroom around campus. We did the Undocu Ally trainings. We've been doing it for many years. I think it's critical. And it's not just for our community college or universities, but also we did it for our educators in the local community. So we had Ally trainings for principals, teachers, counselors. We also did, besides one for all of our staff and faculty, we did it for like the hourly, the part-time employees, because many times they're the front line in connecting with students. As far as outreach and creating awareness, our financial aid outreach program provides application support. But not only do we respond to requests from high schools and community agencies, we proactively look at who has low completion rates from what high schools. And then we will reach out to a particular high school if we see, you know what, they haven't requested us for a financial aid presentation. Well, many times those are the schools that need us the most if they're not reaching out. So it's good to be proactive and get out there and do the family nights. We've been in the classrooms. We help the Career Center after school. We also do Saturday workshops. I think it's important that we try to accommodate, our families and the crazy schedules that they may have during the week. And so sometimes, having a few Saturdays throughout the months, the October through March, is very important. It's important to connect with special groups like parent advisory councils. We have our migrant education parent group that we work with in our ABC Unified School District. And then also, of course, all the materials, like everybody has mentioned, anything that can help the student experience and highlight the resources that they can receive and what are the steps and what's available to them, just providing that holistic support to them. And then as far as financial support, I also think about not just the AB 540 students, right? All undocumented students. And so we advocate for booked vouchers for students that may not qualify for AB 540. They may need help too. Maybe they'll be AB 540 next year, but if they don't make it through this year, they won't be here next year. So I think I've gotten funding sources from SEEP, from AB 19, from district, from our ASCC student body government for book vouchers, and then for scholarships as well. We've done fundraisers, we've done paint nights, t-shirt fundraisers, and also payroll deductions from our allies all over campus. The last one, because I know we're running short on time, is I want to touch on data. So it's important to know your data. And luckily, I am very familiar with the system, so I'm able to pull queries for calling, texting, email campaigns. But it's not always clear who is potentially AB 540 or Undocu, the way the application is at the community college. So we work with admissions and records to pull in information from the CADA, of course, for AB 540 information. But we also pull queries that look at like students that are enrolled, they may be potentially Undocu just based on their residency status, but we make sure that we're excluding like international students and dual enrollment students. We also try to find students that they may have an AB 540 status, but they have no CADA on file. Maybe they didn't file because of that fear of providing their information. And so we'll reach out to them. We'll make sure to exclude the out-of-state residents so that we're not reaching out to them, encouraging them to do a CADA. And then lastly, we have the students who have high non-resident fees and they're not international. So then we'll reach out to them because potentially they could also be a B540 once we ask them all the different questions. So just to end, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for all the work that you do, and thank you for having this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we know we're a couple of minutes over time. We'd love if you could stay a little bit more to hear from these powerful speakers. We're going to hear now from Ryan, Dr. Alcantara, who's going to be talking about the important role that
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm with the Parent Institute for Quality Education, a trusted community partner serving approximately 37,000 families annually across California and beyond on family engagement in support of educational access and success. We work extensively with immigrant and first generation and underserved families that face systemic barriers to financial aid access. I'll share, as a first generation college student myself and the son of immigrant parent and growing up in a bilingual household, BCA's work resonates with me personally, as does the work of CSAC and our efforts, collective efforts here. Promising practices. I first want to acknowledge that families carry with them past barriers and frustrations, and the recent challenges of FAFSA are important to remember because parents can conflate that and misunderstand, and that can be a major impediment to even considering applying. And so it's, you compound that with the narrative of pressures against the immigrant families. We really need to get the word out collectively, multiple ways, multiple times, different voices, encouraging and reassuring families to fill out the California DREAM application. And so ways, I'll approach it like two specific things that are important to consider from our experience at BCA. The critical role of digital education. We do family needs assessment, pointing back to one that we did in 2020. We identified that 1 in 3 of our parents didn't have access to emails. And so, which create a lot of communication issues. So we've integrated digital literacy into our programs, helping parents to navigate technology, which has then a direct impact in their ability to do things like completing applications for financial aid, applications for college. And so to the degree that we're able to do that in multiple ways in many places, it's important. The other thing, it's really, really important that this messaging comes from trusted resources. There's a lot of challenges that our families are facing to really mistrust institutions. So I'll point out to our to fellow nonprofits and community partners out there. I really encourage you to utilize the resources that CSAC is providing and to share that information. And so we are a trusted partner in the families that we serve. We do bilingual and culturally responsive workshops. Our facilitators are oftentimes parents who have done the program. So there's a very strong connection that we have with the community and the families that we serve. So we can honestly provide those reassurances. And I know a lot of you represent organizations and participate in organizations like that. And I just really, really want to encourage you to leverage that in supporting this messaging of, our love for the California DREAM Act. And in terms of our own strategies, we have been promoting awareness of the I Love or I Heart California DREAM Act through our direct communications to parents, parent newsletter, the parent app portal, social media. So grateful to CSAC for providing that information. We're in the process of actually printing up the I Heart California DREAM Act collateral, and we'll be directly handing that to parents through our BCA facilitators. So that means 15 to 18,000 parents over the course of the next several weeks will be getting that information, encouraging them to get their applications in this cycle. We do targeted communication through our portal, our app, which is a Parent Square, and we participate in coordination with CSAC webinar series and our outreach efforts. So we have one that's scheduled tonight, but we've had over 1,000 families join and learn about how to fill out the FAFSA, how to fill out the California DREAM Act application as well. And then finally, we have a postcard that's personalized as we have to share with families that participate in our program, invitations to ask, and we're specifically calling out, do you have questions about financial aid and the California DREAM Act? So really kind of pushing those questions out to folks in the community is truly essential. So let's all do our part and support the efforts that CSAC are doing. Thank you, everybody, for being.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alcantara. And my apologies to both Christopher and Marcos for going over time. Thank you for all of you who are staying on. I'd love to hear, even just briefly, from some of the amazing work that each of you are doing at your institutions. Chris, can we go with you?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Christopher Gonzalez. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for 10,000 Degrees. We're a leading college success nonprofit here in California, focused on supporting students from low-income backgrounds to and through college and beyond. And just to say, 10,000 Degrees has supported undocumented students since our inception 45 years ago, pre-California DREAM Act. So we have a really strong viewpoint on the immense value that these students are bringing to our communities. And really our commitment to them and their families is unwavering. So just want to share some kind of tips over our last 45 years and how we think about working with undocumented students, especially right now. And I think the number one tip I have is, as practitioners, it really starts with us. We really have to examine how we show up and get the strategic just plans and work done. And so I think about the world shifting at such a fast pace. Emotions are running at an all-time high. I encourage self-reflection, gauging our own wellness before stepping into conversations with students, because how we show up right now really, really matters. The stakes are higher, and especially with the federal cuts to education, we know that practitioners are stretched super thin and they're doing the best they can. So we encourage you, get strategic with your workload, divide and conquer with your colleagues, tap in nonprofits like 10,000 Degrees to leverage that workload and help with your bandwidth. We have to collaborate right now and help each other because we can't be pouring from empty cups. Another practice really quick, we center our work around relationship building through clinical fundamentals like active listening, empathy, and validation. So we really work on creating those brave spaces where students can express fears without judgment or pressure. And deadlines are really important, but they come and go. Relationships will endure, and students need to know that the door is always open for them. When students feel like they have unconditional support, they will re-engage when they're ready. The last one, we practice radical honesty paired with hope. This means having really courageous conversations about the barriers that they're going to face. Be honest about it, be upfront, and make sure that the plans you're setting them up for, include resources for CAUTA students, from healthcare to on-campus support services, doing scenarios up to 1 to 4 and really letting them decide. Give them the full picture, but remember your lane. Our students make the decisions for themselves. We're there to provide the information and really let them lead. And lastly, center your engagement in students around joy. As we all know, the world is going through it and our students are going through a volatile time. So when you think about programming, when you think about showing up, do it in a way that's going to make them going to be excited and actually bring fruit there. They want to be inspired, and I think in this moment we can provide them that. And lastly, encourage your students to apply for the 10,000 Degrees Scholarship. It's open now for Northern California Bay Area students. Again, there's no GPA requirement for our scholarship. It ensures they're in our college success program and are supported the full way. And it's open to CAUTA students. So here at 10,000 Degrees, our message to undocumented students is clear. You belong here, your education matters, and we're committed to walking alongside you no matter what happens. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Marcos, we'd love to hear from you and the work that you're doing with SoCalCan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody that's sticking around, and also for all the folks who will be watching this via the recording. My name is Marcos Montes, and I'm the Policy Director for the Southern California College Attainment Network, and I'm also co-lead of the California Undocumented Higher Ed Coalition. A little bit of our coalition is we came together in 2016 to respond to the national uncertainty and the adverse political climate facing undocumented students during that time. And we're experiencing that again, and we're probably experiencing it even worse now. Our mission is to ensure that the state's 100,000 undocumented students in college feel protected and supported by state policymakers and the higher education systems. And that's really one of the first myths I wanted to bust for folks, is that at the time, we estimated there to be 100,000 undocumented students, and that estimate still holds today. So for a lot of folks that are thinking that undocumented folks are no longer in California, that they moved out, that they're in other states, that's actually not true, because the estimate is still around 100,000 undocumented students pursuing higher education in California. The next thing I quickly wanted to share was about one of our most popular tools that we have created via the coalition. We created a map where students can get connected to campus resources. Students can use this interactive tool to find information about campus centers for undocumented students in all of public higher education institutions in California. And more recently, we even added some of the private independent institutions as well. They can find information about support program, website addresses of websites for undocumented students, contact information for undocumented allies and liaisons on this map. Really, we created this tool to ensure that students can find support services, but they can also find a sense of community, allyship, agency, and advocacy on their campus. We know that these are hard times, and one of the only ways to probably get through this is finding community on campus for that. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Marcos. Thank you to everyone who stayed. Thank you for all the work that everyone is doing. We will be hosting another town hall on February 24th. We're going to put the link of how to do that in the chat. We appreciate everything that each of you are doing every day. The work is hard. Students are counting on us, and we also are here to be able to support each other. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you're doing. We will send a follow-up with information about how we're getting the resources out to colleges and universities, how you can request your own packet. I know that you also want some of these amazing little postcards, as well as some of the stickers and the posters. So thanks to everybody for being here today. Thank you for all that you do, and we will see you soon. If you have any questions, reach out to the California Student Aid Commission. You can get more information at the bit.ly iHeartCA Dream Act, or follow us at IG iHeart California Dream Act, iHeart CA Dream Act. We're here to support you, and we're here to help elevate the words and the strength of all of us, and to make sure that students know there is financial aid available even in this current political climate. Thank you to all of you, and thanks, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.